Alright guys, so this weekend we are going to try to do something I've never done before, which is reupholster a seat.
Me and the boys was sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble-rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. Then we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.
Well, we'll see how this goes, because never done it. We'll have to try it. But to give you an idea of what the problem is my previous reupholster job is Gorilla Tape, which worked. I mean, at least it wasn't scratching my back with the fibers. But first thing I'll have to do is remove those 2 bolts on this side and the 2 bolts on the other side. And then I would imagine removing the back, which will be those 2 bolts on each side. And then take the old cover off and put the new cover on. But we'll see how it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so this time, so that I don't bend up the wires like I did last time, I moved the cup holder out of the way. And just so I remember where my bolts are, they're just laying here on the floor. Alright, so here's the crusty old seat. And this thing is held together with just a bunch of hog rings all the way around. Should be fairly simple. And then there's some backing with some burlap and some foam of some sort. Bottom is just hog rings again, all the way around. There's springs on the bottom, and the top is just these bar type springs. So, alright, well, let's take the back loose from the top, or the bottom loose from the top, because you can see how this thing is deteriorated and just falling apart. And then we'll start removing hog rings, and get rid of the old stuff so we can start with the new. And upon closer inspection, what do you suppose this little wire here is for? I have no idea. And this is a regular bolt. That's a regular bolt. But I come around on this side, and that's a square bolt. What the heck? Why is that a square bolt? Isn't that interesting? Ow, 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 ow. Properly support this stuff when you're taking it apart, because that last bolt, when you take it out, it's going to hurt. Whew. Pain, pain, pain. Okay, so here is my new seat cover. It comes with hog rings and a crappy old or little hog ring plier. But I thought I bought a new one. I'm going to have to search for that and try to find it. But let's lay this out so it starts flattening out by the time we need to put it in. So then at the bottom of this box, here's the new foam, and here is the new burlap. So looks like we can put this all back together the way it was originally, and kind of laying this out flat, so hopefully it starts straightening out here before too long, so it's easier to put on. So I started pulling hog rings, and I didn't realize this before, but look at this. There's a piece of the bottom that comes up and it ties to the top. So and it looks like that's on both sides, so we'll have to remember to do it that way when we put this back together. Okay, I tried a big screwdriver and pliers. I tried cutting them with dikes. Neither of those things work, but I got me a little screwdriver, and if I just jam it in here, I can bend these things and it comes off a lot easier. And once you get them bent far enough, they come right out. So that'll go a lot quicker than trying to cut them. But the ones that are bent around the wires, I've found that it's easier to just take a pair of dikes, grab one of the wires and pull. Then they come out real easy. Or a lot easier than using the screwdriver. But you got to find an end, so sometimes you got to spin them around a little bit to get them in the right position so that you can grab an end, because grabbing the middle doesn't help you any. Ooh, that one's a little tougher. And doing it one-handed is not easy either. Come on, buddy. Get in there. Yeah. I gotta do it with two hands. I'll be back. Okay, so now I got all the hog rings out. Let's peel this off and see just how nasty this thing has gotten over the years. So, how the heck was this put on? I think it just wrapped over the top and wrapped around the bottom. But this corner here is somehow stuck. So I'm going to try to just pull it over this way first. Over the top. And then what? How does it get around this other stuff? Well, first things first, let's just get the old cover completely off. And then we'll look at the padding. How did that get on there? Maybe that tape made it too tight. Here we go. Ah, there it finally came around the corner. Oh, and now I got the tape stuck to the burlap. So that's not gonna come off too easy. Let's go around the other side. Peel this corner off. Because what I'm trying to do is peel this off in a way that I might learn something. So now I've gotten it off of this corner. We'll flip it over. And we'll peel off the side I didn't tape down. Alright. So there is the old cover. Then, this is the foamy stuff. And then underneath that is the burlap. Oh, there's the foamy stuff, and this is really thick. Look how thick that is. And then there's the burlap that keeps it from going through, and then there's this little wire that goes in to hold the burlap down. I don't think that came with my burlap. And I put this back over. There appears to be something holding it in place. Ah, there's more hog rings. So they just hog ringed this thing, the burlap, and the foam, or at least the burlap, right to this wire, this outer wire. If I can get on it. Maybe if I get a screwdriver in there. Screwdriver seems to be working a little bit. Here we go. I can grip it almost. Come on. There we go. I got one off. There's one. Now I believe there's one on this side too. Yep, it's buried underneath this. Boy, these are harder to get to than the ones that were on the cover. Ah. Come on. There we go. Alright, maybe. Maybe there we go. There we go. Now it's off. Where's the next thing that's tied down? Alright, so I gotta work this all off now. I'll be back in a bit. Alright, it's free. Okay, now I can get rid of the old seat cover and figure out how to do the new seat cover. Suppose maybe I should clean this up a little bit. I see a couple little things that have gone wrong. Like a few of these wires that maybe should have not come loose. I don't know. Or did they just not assemble this right? Because it looks to me, I don't know what these little things are all about. Where do those go? And what do I do with them? Alright, well, let's clean this thing off, the springs off, and then we'll see about putting the new cover on. Or, better yet, while we're making the mess, let's take the bottom apart too. That way we're only doing one thing at a time. But, as you probably suspected, it's going to be more of the same. Pull the hog ring pliers, or hog rings out, and then peel it apart, just like the top. Oh no. I drew blood. Now I gotta go get cleaned up. Okay guys, here's a lesson for you. Be smarter than me. Wear a pair of gloves when you're doing this stuff so you don't chew your hands up. Well, the seat cover is now off, and you can see how bad this old one was. You know, the cushion was tore up. This stuff is completely rotted away on this whole side. So you know whose butt sat here the most? Driver's. Drinker's side, barely touched, it seems like. You know, not too many people sat on that side. Well, now I got to pull off the burlap and stuff, and we'll see what's next. So this is interesting. That side, or the top half, had the burlap all tied to the, hog ringed to the springs, but on this side, it's just loose laying. Huh, go figure. Wonder where these guys got their cigarettes. I bet you in Safeway. Now, we were wondering about this wire that was hanging off here. It seems to be hog ringed to this burlap. I don't know if it was used just to straighten things out or what, or keep the back of the seat down lower. But I think I'm just going to leave that piece of burlap there because I don't think I got a new one with the new seat. So we'll just let that lie. Sleeping dogs lie. Okay, time to clean it up. Okay, all clean. Okay, both pieces of burlap and both pieces of foam appear to be the same size. And if you're wondering how is that going to work, how is that foam going to work? As you take it apart, it does get thicker, so I'm not too worried about it not being thick enough anymore. Well, my blood sugar is going down, so I better go take care of that before it goes too low. We'll come back out a little later once it comes back up, and we'll start working on the seats. Okay, the original burlap did not cover the entire seat. So what I'm going to do is use with this new burlap, I'm going to just fold it over and then tie it to the spring here at the top, kind of like the original was, and kind of keep it similar but maybe strengthened a little bit by having extra stuff there. And then I'll just use a few of the whatchamacallits, hog rings to kind of tie it all together. But I think that'll probably work the best for what I'm trying to do, is just cover this seat. Okay, so I'm really struggling to get this corner to fill in nicely. So I think I'm going to do some things here to take it apart and see if I can get it to fit a little tighter without the stuffing in it, and then see where it needs more stuffing and put more stuffing there, and where it needs less stuffing and put less stuffing in those other spots. But yeah, I mean, because I definitely don't want it that floppy in the corners. So let me do some testing and refitting and see what happens. Okay, I took the padding off and laid it over there by the truck, and just to see how well it fits without the padding. And yeah, it fits in there pretty good without the padding. So now I just got to figure out how much padding I need to put in there. But I'm thinking I really need to just cut it down a little bit and have less padding in there rather than more padding, because otherwise it doesn't seem to be fitting very well. So we'll give that a shot, because if you look at the original, there was padding, but it didn't go all the way down or all the way around. It just kind of filled in around the front of the thing. So, maybe I don't need huge amounts of padding. And I kind of marked where the edge of the frame is when I fold it over. So I know I have to go to around that and probably add another 2 inches all the way around to make it, or an inch maybe, all the way around to make it fit better around the front of this thing, because it never had any padding in front here. It was just stretched. So we'll see how that works if I trim this back and see, hopefully it will fit much better. Okay, so I trimmed it back. Now it's just going to overhang a little bit, and let's see how well the seat cover fits with just a little bit of overhang instead of having huge amounts of overhang. It's looking a lot better. The one thing I need to do though now is put a few hog rings through the foam padding so that it doesn't slide around, because it's hanging off the back here a little bit further than I wanted. So let me tighten that up, and then we'll do another fit with the seat cover. Okay, so I just threw in a few hog rings just to make sure everything stays put when I put the seat cover on. So let's put the seat cover back on and let's see how it turns out. Okay, everything's starting to look pretty good. I mean, it's not tight yet, but that's because I don't have any hog rings in. But it is laying a lot more like the factory one did. Corners are filling in pretty nicely with padding. Hopefully it'll still be comfortable. But let's start putting in hog rings and tightening this whole bottom up. So this seat cover is kind of nice. There's a nice little piece of piping right here that goes to this to put hog rings around that bar there. So I think that's where I'm going to start, as the front, because that's probably where I want to make the most straight. And then we'll see how that goes when we do the sides next, and then the bottom after that, or the way back after that. The back ties to this bar back here, and the side ties to this bar right here. So, and there's piping all the way around to give it a little extra strength. So that definitely, I think, will work pretty good. Okay, I have them hog ringed in all the way around the front and the side, except for right here. I guess I need to put a few more in on the front, but I haven't touched the back yet because I want to flip it over and take a good look at it before I do any on the back edge to see what I got to do to straighten it all out. Alright, I think it's looking pretty good. I need to do a little bit of tightening up now on the back side, but I think that's going to work. Alright, let's snug up the back, and then we'll see how the whole seat looks. Alright guys, there you have it. The bottom seat cushion is done. What do you guys think? Does that look good enough for a 60 plus year old truck, 61-year-old truck? Looks better than the than the Gorilla Tape hole patches, doesn't it? Either way, better than it was. Okay, who remembers how the top goes back together? I am looking at this. It looks like the padding kind of just wraps around the bottom and just kind of stuffs in around the top and around the sides and around the bottom. And then once the padding is in place, then the cover just sits in here and then probably gets snugged up as it goes. Yeah. Alright, we're going to go with that and see how it works. All that being said, I think we're just going to do the back just like we did the front. We're just going to fold over the extra burlap to make it a little softer, you know, around the edges. And then we'll put on some of the foam, and then we'll put on the back. And then we'll see how it goes. So, time to put in some more hog rings. Okay, that's probably pretty good for the burlap gunny sack back. Now we got to put on the foam. But first, let's do a little dry fit without the foam to see if there's anything we need to worry about. But it looks to me like this will probably end up being a lot like the bottom. And remember these little things that hung out and wrapped around? Those are the bottom side. So the other half is the top. And I think it'll work pretty good. Okay, this time I just kind of rounded the corners off of the foam, and I think that it's going to be pretty decent once I get the back cover on to be a consistent all the way around. So now I'm going to put in a few hog rings just to make sure this holds into place just like I did before, and then we'll start seeing how she goes. Okay, the foam's all hog ringed into place, so it should stay pretty still. Whoops, I forgot I need to put one here on this side, just like I did on that side. Let me do that, and then we'll start dry fitting the top, or the cover. Alright, I think the next question is how well centered is that now to the back? I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of reassembly just to make sure that the centers line up. Well, this is going to take a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Here's an amateur tip. If you put the screws in at the bottom for the top holes, so you mix the top with the bottom, then you can kind of lay the seat over on top of the other one and see just how well it fits together. And looking at this, I need to move the whole top over about a 1/4 inch to the left. So let's make some adjustments and then see if we can get this perfect. Another amateur trick, I tightened those bolts up kind of tight so I could push up here and make it easier to put in those first hog rings, because you know, you smash the spring a little bit and then everything seems to go together a little bit easier. Now that I got the first few hog rings in, what do you guys think of my edges? They seem to be lined up pretty well, don't they? Alright, time to put in a bunch more hog rings. Okay guys, there's the seat all put back together. Now I just got to put it back in the truck. So wish me luck. Hopefully I don't tear it up too much trying to get it back in there. But good, here we go. It's not easy to do, but by yourself. But I think I can get it. I've done it before. Alright guys, there you have it. Brand new seat cover, brand new headliner. Now what? Take it out for a drive? Maybe. We'll have to see if Sandy will ever get in it. Alright guys, we're gonna go for a ride. the new seat covers. Probably can't see them too well. But, oh, this is nice. But, yeah, you've been with the ride for me for a few times now, so you probably know what it's like. I am going to turn on the radio and listen to some music. Talk to you later.
Me and the boys was sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. Then we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.
Get up here. And yeah, there's a ice on all of that up here.
I saw the glitter of, or glint of the ice first. It looks silver, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, pull up a little bit.
It's got frozen on it. It doesn't.
There, that's a better spot to be. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Those weeds are all covered with just ice.
Oh, it's some sort of
Whatever. But there's enough water flowing down this hill.
Yeah.
It's even coming down a little bit over there too.
Yeah.
Let's go forward a little bit. Yeah, it's just dribbling down this hill.